It may not be Monday, but it doesn't matter. We're still going to be doing some mock drafting today. Welcome into Mock Draft 2.0, number 2 of the 3 mock drafts that I'll be doing this offseason. Now, Mock Draft 3.0, my final predictions for the 2025 NFL Draft will be coming out the week of the draft, which is closing in on us very quickly. But today, we're going to be going through the first 32 picks of the first round to talk about where I think some guys could end up landing. These are not my final predictions. This is really based on a lot of the chatter out there, a lot of current positions needed, best available, and such. So just keep in mind, this will probably change over the next couple of weeks when I drop my final predictions. But if you're new here to the Fantasy Headliners, hit that subscribe button. We are a one-stop shop for everything football related. NFL draft, scouting, prospects, dynasty football, redraft fantasy football, whatever you need, we've got you covered here. And on the clock right now are the Tennessee Titans, and let's go ahead and lock it in because I do firmly believe that right now Cam Ward will be the first overall pick. Throughout this entire draft process, Cam Ward continues to show some elite traits at the quarterback position. In Tennessee, you can't mess around anymore. You can't wait on Will Levis. You can't keep this rotation of quarterbacks. You need to go get the game changer and future of your franchise, especially considering the fact you've got a new stadium coming with some seats that need to be filled. Not only can Cam Ward fill your seats, but he can make you a contender in the AFC South once again. But let's take a look at the scouting report and why Cam Ward is my number 1 quarterback in this draft, and it's by quite a bit. When you take a look at what he can do from a strength perspective, post-read snaps, and his progressions. After the ball is snapped, with a lot of quarterbacks, sometimes they don't go through their reads or progressions well. And for as athletic as Cam Ward is, he still stays in the pocket and will still go through those progressions a majority of the time. Now, one area I do want to see him get better in is staying in the pocket a little bit more. Because of that athleticism, he will kind of roll out, and sometimes instead of kind of really sitting there and looking for that next play, he will try to do some things. So stay in the pocket just a little bit more, trust your offensive line, and let your arm talent speak for itself because the arm strength is there and the accuracy from multiple slots. Look, the picture that we have in the scouting report right now, he's throwing from the side. If you watch Matthew Stafford throw, he throws sidearm, he throws 3/4 over the top, he can throw on the run. Cam Ward, in the way that he throws, especially when it comes to the likes of Matthew Stafford and Patrick Mahomes, it reminds me a lot of those things. Now, the mechanics can get a little inconsistent at times because of that, but normally his accuracy from those slots are really, really good. It's more about setting the feet and the hips, making sure you rotate and not using your arm to power the football. Ward could be a superstar NFL quarterback if he works to perfect his mechanics. He can improvise with the best of them, and while he's not sacrificing accuracy or velocity on his throws, that is a very, very key point when it comes to getting outside of the pocket, and I absolutely love that about Cam Ward. And if you want to get access to a ton of scouting reports like you just saw on screen, plus dynasty fantasy football content, redraft fantasy football content, and tools that are exclusive to the Fantasy Headliners, like my dynamic running back rating, then you're going to want to pre-order our 2025 Fantasy Football Draft Guide, the best piece of information that you can utilize to not only prepare yourself for the upcoming season, but fantasy football dominance. And it's going to be available very soon. We're going to get you started with a ton of 2025 NFL draft content. We're going to keep dropping dynasty content as well. And then as we get into the summer, then you're going to start seeing all of the redraft content consistently uploaded. Purchase it now, get access at the start of the summer, utilize it all summer long with updates that come directly to your screen, and you're going to be ready for the 2025 season more than any of your league mates. unless they watch this channel as well. In my first mock draft, I went with Travis Hunter to the Cleveland Browns, and I'm not changing my thought process there. And it seems to be becoming more and more of a popular pick. In fact, when I did my first mock draft, I thought Cleveland Brown fans were going to be like, no way, we need to go with somebody else. But it sounded like it was met with a resounding yes. Cleveland fans want something to be excited about. And Travis Hunter, whether he plays wide receiver, cornerback, or both, will be able to do just that. New York Giants fans, you're probably going to be split on this mock, but I'm going to go with Abdul Carter over Shadur Sanders at number 3 overall. You've got Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns already at the edge positions, so adding Abdul Carter is definitely not something that you have to do, but he's one of the 2 best overall players in this draft, and because of that, you really can't pass on that. You've got a couple of veterans to kind of lead that quarterback room for at least this year and maybe next year. And Brian Daboll, he needs to win now. And doing that, drafting Abdul Carter over Shadur Sanders seems like a way better bet. You can rotate these guys at will, keep them fresh, and keep after the quarterback all game long. At number 4 overall to the New England Patriots, this is the highest I've had him go, but Armin Menboa is a guy that I have been talking about since I started my draft process. And when you take a look at what he did at the Combine, he continues to fly up draft boards as well. I acknowledged early on that this was going to be a guy that could be a mixture of Zach Martin and Quentin Nelson if he plays the guard position, but he could move outside the tackle if he needed to as well. And he is absolutely a Mike Vrabel type of player. He is young, he is dominant, and he reminds me a lot of Penei Sewell as well. And he could come out and he could play very well at a young age, and he is absolutely deserving of a top 4 pick. It's not very exciting, New England fans, because a lot of you were probably hoping for Travis Hunter instead, but this is a pick that is absolutely needed. You got Drake May, an improved weapon with Stephon Diggs. Now keep him safe by upgrading the offensive line. Mason Graham to Jacksonville at number 5 is one that I continue to place. I feel like that is definitely a lock there at number 5 for Mason Graham. He's going to help improve that defensive line. He's going to be a terror in the middle for the run game and the pass game. And you've had some mixed results at the edge position the last couple of years. Let's free up a little bit of room for them, knowing that the guards in the center are going to have to take care of Mason Graham as well. The one pick in this draft that seems to make more sense than any other pick is Ashton Jeanty going to the Las Vegas Raiders, and I will continue to mock him here. And if he doesn't go to the Raiders at number 6, assuming he's still there, I would be absolutely shocked. You're trying to bring the Raiders back to the glory days. You already brought Pete Carroll, who during his time in Seattle would pound the football on the ground with Marshawn Lynch. Jeanty could end up being the same type of player and the same type of offense. New York Jets fans, I need to hear from you down in the comments. Do you believe Shadur Sanders should go here to your Jets? Obviously, I don't think anybody believes that Justin Fields is your quarterback of the future, but sometimes you need to invest in the offensive line before you invest in a quarterback. And for me, when I take a look at Will Campbell sitting here at number 7 overall, he's an Aaron Glenn type of guy, down and dirty, willing to fight, willing to go to war every single Sunday. That's the type of guy Aaron Glenn wants to change what has happened to this organization over the last several years. Shadur Sanders, to me, isn't a great fit with the New York Jets. I don't know if he brings that mentality. Therefore, invest in the offensive line, give Justin Fields a year to see what he can do, reevaluate next season if you think you still need a quarterback. At number 8, at one point in time, I went with Tet McLaurin to the Carolina Panthers, but I'm really starting to feel like Matthew Golden may be the first wide receiver drafted in 2025. And for me personally, even though a lot of people are going to want to talk about making the defense better, you did a lot of that through free agency already. Bryce Young showed some real promise at the end of last year. 3 straight weeks as a top 12 quarterback. Get him another weapon to throw to, allow him to continue to grow so that investment that you made a couple of years ago doesn't become a complete wash. The new betting favorites to land Shadur Sanders in the 2025 draft are the New Orleans Saints. And with Kellen Moore at the helm there now, it wouldn't shock me for him to say, I want to invest in a quarterback. Derek Carr is great. I like him, but I need my guy moving forward. And Shadur Sanders may be that guy. Now, I think there are some realistic possibilities here that are all over the board. Number one being that Shadur Sanders, I think he could end up falling this far. I think there's a possibility that someone could end up moving up for him, but I do think there is a possibility he reaches number 9 for the New Orleans Saints. I also think it's possible that the Saints could just trade up. Maybe they want to move up in front of the New York Jets after maybe New York Giants pass on Shadur Sanders. If that ends up happening, then maybe New Orleans moves up. New Orleans could also just stay here and they could go edge rusher and they could go cornerback, and it would make just as much sense. But the odds makers in Vegas feel like Shadur Sanders to New Orleans is picking up, and that's why I'm going with that pick right here. Now, I have made it known throughout this draft process, while I think Shadur Sanders is a good quarterback, I don't think he's a great quarterback, and that's why I believe Cam Ward is head over heels above what Shadur Sanders is. Now, Shadur Sanders does some good things. He's got pretty decent arm strength, his accuracy is good, and his mobility is good as well, but there's some issues within the gameplay that are going to pick up as the NFL game speeds up around him. Number one being, he doesn't seem to anticipate windows very well. At Colorado, when you see some of his best throws, some of the biggest plays that they made there, it's because Travis Hunter and his other wide receivers were wide open. He didn't find himself in a situation where he had to throw his wide receivers open all that often. His pocket awareness is another one too, and it kind of goes hand in hand with holding onto the football for too long. Sometimes in the pocket, he'll stand there and he'll wait and he'll wait and he'll try and move, and sometimes he waits for that perfect throw to happen and it doesn't. Some of those open throws that he has, it looked like he just felt like he should have those all the time, and when he didn't seem like he really knew where to go with the football. Now, that's not saying that he didn't make good throws like that. He just wasn't consistently doing it. Now, Sanders has all of the physical tools needed to be a successful NFL quarterback. The arm strength and accuracy are exceptional, but the mental game is what could end up leading to some changes. He's going to need to adjust to the NFL game speed, and if he's able to, he'll be just fine, but I don't think that he's going to be a superstar at this level. Chicago Bears fans, say whatever you want to about this pick. You can tell me how awful it is. You can tell me how delusional I am. I'm going to give you a free pass, because I'll tell you what right now, you're going to come back to the comment section and you're going to apologize to me by the end of this season, because Omari and Hampton in this Bears offense would be absolutely lethal. People do not give him enough credit, and they should, because he is very close to Genty in terms of overall skill and ability. Think about it a couple of years ago. People were talking about Bijan Robinson consistently, how great he was. And then Jahmyr Gibbs ended up being drafted just after him to the Detroit Lions, who Ben Johnson was the offensive coordinator for. And do you remember the starter the year before that for the Detroit Lions? It was DeAndre Swift, the current starter for the Chicago Bears. Ben Johnson wants weapons, and he's going to want to do what he did in Detroit with his offense. And adding an elite ball carrier like Omari and Hampton could make things a ton of fun, and it can make life a little easier on Caleb Williams. At number 11, the San Francisco 49ers could end up going a couple of different ways. Now, they could go interior offensive line, but I feel like there's a couple of guards that could fall into the second round. They're a little bit better of a draft value. Let's go ahead and go with an elite pass rusher, Jalen Walker out of Georgia instead. Now, there is talks about him flying up the draft board. In fact, this weekend he's supposed to be visiting with the Cleveland Browns. But Jalen Walker is an elite pass rusher on the other side of Bosa that could end up giving this defense a lot of help. For Dallas at number 12, this is becoming a more and more popular pick, and it's Tet McLaurin out of Arizona. And just a couple of months ago, this wouldn't have even been a reality because Tet McLaurin was being considered a top 5 player in this draft and was thought of going well inside the top 10. Matthew Golden has kind of jumped up there at this point, allowing Tet McMillan to fall a little bit, as well as some workout things in terms of like his overall speed. But Tet McLaurin alongside CeeDee Lamb would give Dak Prescott another weapon, and the Cowboys really need another weapon. At number 13, Miami needs to suddenly replace Teron Armstrong, who was definitely on the precipice of retiring, but I think the Dolphins felt like they may have had another year for him. I'm going to go with the big offensive tackle out of Texas, Kelvin Banks Jr. I love this guy to step in for Armstrong right away and be a guy that can absolutely protect Tua. And you got to protect Tua. Tied into the Colts at number 14 feels like a chalk pick at this point, and I don't know if I absolutely love that pick, but Tyler Warren to the Colts really feels like something that could end up happening. And again, with this mock draft, I'm really trying to go with a mixture of some things I think could happen and would be fun and would definitely make a team better, plus some things that feel like they're really locked in. And just like Genty going to the Raiders, a tight end going to the Colts seems like kind of a thing that's absolutely going to happen. Some help on the offensive line to protect and another playmaker as well. Over the last several years, the Atlanta Falcons have had one of the worst pass rush win rates of any organization in all of football. They are not getting after the quarterback nearly enough. And the athletic freak Shamar Stewart could end up falling just a little bit in the draft because you just don't see a ton of what he could do in terms of his statistics from college. But when you watch the tape and you look at what he did at the combine, you know that this is a dude that could turn into an animal. And a lot of the same things could be said about Mike Green going to the Arizona Cardinals at number 16. They need help on the defensive line as well. And taking Mike Green, last year's FBS sack leader, and adding him to your defense could make a ton of difference. And they did just add Josh Sweat in free agency from the Philadelphia Eagles. So pair those two together, and that takes a ton of pressure off the secondary in a division that's probably going to be throwing the football an awful lot. Cincinnati is another one of those teams that could likely benefit from some help in the interior of the offensive line, but taking one here when there is some elite potential pass rusher still on the board does not feel like a good idea when they could potentially get those guards or centers in the second round. So for me, I'm going to go with James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee, the edge rusher that has a ton of physical talent, but needs to just stay out of his own way and make sure that he's not having any issues off the field or in the locker room. At number 18, the Seattle Seahawks may get a gift of an elite cornerback falling all the way down to them. Will Johnson has kind of been out of sight, out of mind. He hasn't been able to participate in too many things with the pre-draft process because he's been banged up. He was also banged up last year, so a lot of questions about durability are starting to pop up, and because of that, he's going to slide in the first round. But sliding all the way down here to 18 is still realistic. And yeah, Seattle may need help on the interior of the offensive line. You could argue that they should go after a pass rusher or maybe even a wide receiver. But you've got some question marks at the cornerback position. There is a lot of chatter that Rick Woolen is going to be traded or released after the draft. That's an opportunity for Will Johnson to step in right away. You've also got Josh Jobe, who could end up leaving via free agency next year, and at that point, having an elite playmaker right next to Devin Witherspoon on the other side, you're really talking about a no-fly zone now in Seattle. Nick Emenwari has the opportunity to be what Kyle Hamilton is to the Baltimore Ravens. And do you think Todd Bowles is going to have some fun with an elite athlete at the safety position alongside Antonio Winfield? You bet he is. Nick Emenwari is a huge addition to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here at number 19. At number 20, it feels like Colston Loveland may be a more logical pick to pair with Evan Ingram at the tight end position. position. But because you already signed Evan Ingram, I'm going to go a different route with Mykel Williams from Georgia coming down here at number 20. Now, for the Denver Broncos, you might have some areas of need a little bit more than pass rush, but honestly, I think that's an area that you can't forget about. Zach Allen and John Franklin Myers will both be free agents after this season, and you're not going to want to get caught waiting to see what happens next year when you could add in Mykel Williams right now and have a really good pass rush in a division where you got to get after the quarterback. At number 21, as of this recording, Aaron Rodgers still has not signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and while it feels like that may end up happening, I don't think that they should skip on Jaxon Dart. Now, Steelers fans may not agree with me about Dart, but I'll tell you what, I've watched more film on Dart than any other prospect in this draft, and I think that he can be a truly elite NFL quarterback. Yeah, he makes some plays sometimes where you think to yourself, why did he make that throw? But for every play like that, he makes 5 or 6 plays where he looks like not only just a first-round quarterback, but a guy that could have been taken number 1 overall. When I watch Jaxon Dart on tape, I absolutely love the sideline and deep accuracy. He throws the ball to the sideline better than Shadur Sanders and better than Cam Ward. And his ability to find guys open down the field also is an elite trait that I absolutely love. Obviously, he has the athleticism as well, but he also has solid look-offs to help open up the first option. Now, I don't consider myself an elite talent evaluator. This is one area of my job that I feel like I've gotten pretty good at over the last couple of years. But earlier today, Dan Orlovsky had a little segment on NFL Today where he talked about Jaxon Dart. And one of the areas that he went into when describing Jaxon Dart and what he does on tape, it's this ability to look off defenders to help open up options. This scouting report that I put together has had this as a strength of Jaxon Dart for the last couple of months. And to hear a guy like Orlovsky basically back up what I've seen on film is just, it's a great feeling. I would love to have Dan on an episode of the Fantasy Headliners to talk to him a little bit more, because I think that he is a really good talent evaluator as well. And I think he's one of the better analysts that we have for the NFL today. Now, some weaknesses that we got to work on with Jaxon Dart. His throws over the middle. Sometimes his intermediate accuracy can be a little bit off. Sometimes he pushes the ball instead of kind of letting it go, and because of that, his throws tend to be a little bit off. And he wasn't asked to go through progressions in his offense maybe as much as some other top NFL players are. Now, I talk about the solid look-offs to help the first option. He was able to do that, but we need to get Jaxon Dart at a point where he looks at option 1, 2, and 3 before making a decision. But he has all the physical talents and stature of an NFL quarterback. He can work the sidelines. He can work the deep ball with the best of anybody in college football last year. He's going to need to improve that pocket presence a little bit, especially when he's throwing over the middle and short. But Jaxon Dart is a guy that absolutely is going to go in the first round, and it would not shock me if he even goes earlier than 21. At number 22, this is a pick that makes a whole lot of sense, and I don't know if Loveland is even going to be available for the Chargers here. He could easily go earlier than this, but reuniting with Jim Harbaugh would be an absolute win for Loveland, Harbaugh, and Justin Herbert. A guy that's on the end of the line that can help block, plus an elite weapon at the tight end position to go along with, some of that help that you need with Ladd McConkey, a little bit of a bigger statured receiver. Colston Loveland would absolutely fit the bill of what they're trying to do in LA. Green Bay getting Jahdae Barron at number 23 overall would be a huge win for them as well. Jair Alexander seems to be on the way out. They're probably going to end up releasing him or trading him if they can find a partner at some point in time. And they lost Stokes to free agency. So being able to bring in an elite cornerback is absolutely going to be something they need to do, facing J.J. McCarthy and the Vikings, Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears, and Jared Goff with the Detroit Lions. Speaking of cornerback help, how about the fastest guy at the combine, Maxwell Harrison, going to the Minnesota Vikings? They also need a little bit of help in the secondary. Gilmore and Griffin, they both left via free agency. Byron Murphy is a lot better in the slot than he is outside. Push him back in there. Bring in a guy like Maxwell Harrison to use that elite speed and those elite traits on the outside to help contain some of these quarterbacks and wide receivers you're going to to be facing consistently in the NFC North. If it weren't for Josh Simmons' season-ending injury late in 2024, this guy would not only be the offensive tackle number 1 in this draft, but likely he's at least a top 10 pick, if not a top 5 pick. Because of the injury, there's going to be some question marks. He is going to slide, but Houston getting him this far down in the first round is an absolute win, considering that they've depleted that offensive line quite a bit this offseason. The LA Rams linebackers are pretty depleted after free agency. Roseboom, Hummel, and Reeder all left via free agency. So when you take a look at Jihad Campbell falling this far to the LA Rams, that would make this defense go from still being very good to almost elite. That guy alone would absolutely take care of everything needed in the middle of this defense. The Baltimore Ravens need to get younger at the edge position. Kyle Van Noy was great last season, but he's getting into his 30s at this point. Donovan Ezuraku out of Boston College is definitely the type of edge rusher that you could add into your defense right away. And he is a guy that is flying up draft boards during this process. Teams absolutely love him. Kenneth Grant, the big man in the middle for the Michigan Wolverines, just hops on 94 from Ann Arbor to Detroit and finds his new home. Yeah, the Detroit Lions have a decent amount of depth at the defensive tackle position and really could use an edge rusher here a lot more. And if one of these edge rushers ends up getting to them, I think that they go with them over a defensive tackle. But there's going to be some edge guys in the second round they can also invest in. Kenneth Grant is going to go really well right next to Aleem McNeil when he comes back from his injury. And you've got a couple of other guys, DJ Reader, Onwuzurike, who are in the middle of the defense right now that will be free agents at the end of the season. Kenneth Grant definitely will help keep the run game elite for the Detroit Lions, or I should say the run game from not being elite against the Detroit Lions, but he's also going to cause pressure in the middle as well. Couple of weeks ago, I saw a mock draft where somebody had Luther Burden going to the Washington Commanders, and I was like, they just traded for Deebo Samuel. Why would they end up going with a player that is basically the same thing? I mean, Luther Burden's comp is Deebo Samuel. My comp for Luther Burden, though, is Amon-Ra St. Brown. And depending on what you're going to do with Deebo Samuel, I thought about it a little bit more, and I was like, you know what? A guy like Luther Burden just makes this offense even more scary. If a playmaker like that is available at the end of the first round, I don't know if there's too many guys right here that have the potential impact that Luther Burden does. Now, for me, when I take a look at Luther Burden, he's got to be in the right situation and utilized correctly, because if he's not going to be able to make an impact. He's not a receiver that's just going to go play out wide or in the slot. You're going to have to move him around and do some different things with him. But this is an offense that could absolutely do it. For the Buffalo Bills, they need some help at the cornerback position. They could also use some help at safety. And when you take a look at the safest options right now here at the end of the first, Trey Amos is that guy. There's a couple of cornerbacks that still have some first round value to them, but might be a little bit more risky than Amos. So when I take a look at Amos being a little bit safer, that feels like what Buffalo needs right now. For the Kansas City Chiefs, they got absolutely worked by the interior of the defensive line and the edges for the Philadelphia Eagles. So you know what? Monkey see, monkey do. Let's go ahead and do the same thing with the Kansas City Chiefs. And we're going to give them Walter Nolan in the middle of their defense to help Chris Jones to absolutely cause chaos for opposing quarterbacks. And at number 32, the Philadelphia Bulldogs, the Eagles, keep the trend going of drafting Georgia Bulldogs with Malachi Starks, the safety, going to them at number 32. They traded CJ Gardner-Johnson, so they have a safety spot open now. And Malachi Starks, a guy that is a top 10 player for some people, but just didn't show it on film last year, falls all the way down. Another gift for the Eagles. Well, there we have it. Mock Draft 2.0. in the books. I know there's some questionable picks. I know there's some picks that make a whole lot of sense. But in the comments down below, tell me what you think. Which ones do you not like? Which ones do you love? Which ones do you think will work out the best? Which ones could be a complete disaster? And what player did you not see in the first round that you have a first round grade on. Right now, I've got several guys that weren't shown here that have first round grades and absolutely could end up going somewhere in the top 32 as well. But Headliner Nation, hopefully y'all appreciate the video. Hit the like, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below, and turn on those bell notifications. Anytime we drop new content, you're gonna wanna know about it right away. For now, Headliner Nation, peace out, stay safe, stay healthy. I'll catch you all in the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.